evening, I'm Jasmine Cassis and welcome to Cassis News. The Australian landscape that we know today is shaped by public discourse to generate a community bound by cultural common beliefs and practices. Media forums such as news and social media use their social platform to shape social attitudes in an often harmful way. This level of manipulation is highlighted in Irving Janis's theory of groupthink.
Groupthink is the deterioration of mental efficiency, reality testing and moral judgment that results from in-group pressures.
Although Janis did develop a theory to explain why leaders like Joseph Stalin were able to rule a dictatorship, the theory also fits into Australia's democratic media forum too. Just as Stalin altered public discourse to suit his political motives, so too does the Australian government by unconsciously setting a political agenda. You don't believe me? Let me show you. Although technology has changed over time, televised news is still a vital asset of the Australian media spectrum. In a 2016 news report by the University of Canberra, it was gathered that over 76% of Australian media consumers use mainstream media as their main source of news, with 37.6% stating that TV was their main source of media. With more than half of Australian citizens relying on mainstream forums for information, outlets such as Channel 9 and 7 have the capacity to completely reframe a situation. Situations such as the current refugee crisis is a clear example of groupthink at play. As discussed in a War on Words report, broadcast media forums such as the news have the capacity to instill a set agenda through the repetition and slogan of trigger words. When phrases such as people smugglers are constantly repeated in reports regarding refugees, a stereotype is enforced that refugees are associated with people smugglers. The referral of refugees as detainees is another method of dehumanizing language that eliminates empathy in the audience's mind.
It brands them as illegitimate, illegal, and thus potentially criminal.
It is undeniable that broadcasting media constructs groupthink on a mass audience scale. What was once a welcoming and hospitable nation has rapidly transformed into a hostile society because of the media's ability to alter an audience's perception and attitude on an issue. But groupthink is not just taking place in Australia. President Donald Trump was able to seize power in the 2016 presidential election because he effectively manipulated public discourse through the media. Trump took advantage of public reliance to online social platforms and saturated his beliefs, actions, and attitudes in order to seize victory. Now it is no time to become a survivalist, sell your 4 investment properties and buy a cabin in New Zealand just as Steve McGrady did. According to Nick Coldry's assessment on the future of the audience, groupthink can be prevented if an audience addresses the agenda set to avoid negative values becoming internalized. It is crucial that the audience members can recognize slogans as it gives a hook and a position that people can digest quickly. It is also important for audience members to not rely on mainstream media corporations as their main source of news. Alternatives such as ABC and SBS offer a more neutral and accurate report on issues. The schism in Australian broadcasting media is justified through the rejection of asylum seekers within our Australian borders. The media enforces the notion that seeking asylum is illegal, when in fact under the 1951 United Nations Refugee Convention, which Australia is a signatory to, it is a basic human right. It also condones the government detainment of children in offshore detention centres, where there is evidence through the leaking of the Nauru files in 2016 that children in these detention centres are faced with violence and sexual abuse. Through the use of propaganda, language and entertainment, a distraction is constructed that deters viewers from what they are consuming. If groupthink can be recognised in broadcasting media and alternate media forums other than mainstream broadcasts are consumed, then we as a nation can recognise the realities of the issues at hand and make an informed decision that can lead to justified actions and change.